This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. The Middle Ground Mic is fighting for truth and unity. Subscribe now or support us today. Links are in the notes. Stand with us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Middle Ground Mic. We've got a great guy here today. Stop scrolling, especially if you want to hear some awesome information. We got Michael Dillard. He's been a global leader, former diplomat, especially to some pretty awesome places. You know, he's here to unpack what really works when it comes to leadership, burnout, and when they collide, right? You know, if you're a leader who's done with gimmicks, you know, you want some practical moves, subscribe now, sign up for our newsletter. Michael, welcome to the Middle Ground Mic. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Joe, I'm happy to be on the Middle Ground show. I've been listening to you. I love hearing what other guests are talking about. I love the fact that, you're keeping it real. Listeners, if you want to listen to something that's going to be real and authentic, keep subscribing to the podcast. My name is Michael Dillard, the accidental U.S. diplomat, unemployed on a Friday, a U.S. diplomat on a Monday. Now I'm retired. I'm a global leadership strategist, helping employers build team morale and reduce employee turnover.
Yeah, going from jobless to a diplomat is not an easy thing to do. You know, you've led globally. You've written books. Obviously, you're working on leadership systems, finances, culture. You know, let's kind of talk a little bit about your journey, right? The cost of burnout and leadership failures. You know, it's everywhere. But you see, it's not just overwork, it's a leadership failure. Remember we were talking a little bit before the things, like how I tell people to come to me and I'd rather you go crazy on me so that, we try to get to, prevent that point. But where does that come from your perspective?
Yeah. With burnout in leadership, what starts to happen is that employees don't feel heard. So in my framework, Lead with Impact, L stands for listening. And what happens is that some leaders have a certain management style that doesn't fit their teams. As a result, they're not getting the feedback. There's no feedback loop. And so as a leader, that leader thinks they're doing the best thing possible. But then, as you know, employees are going to the break room and they start complaining. They come out of that team meeting and being like, here we go again. We got to do this project, which they don't believe in. However, if somebody voiced a concern during the meeting, raised a hand and asked a question, and the leader actually listened to their thoughts on it and took time to unpack it, then the employees would have more buy-in. Sometimes, as you know, as a leader, you can't implement everything, but it's the thing of being heard, feeling like that, you did consider my perspective. And as a result, team morale goes down because employees don't feel heard. And then as a result, the leader is trying to do more and more to increase employee productivity. And so they burn out because they just can't work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to keep everything going at a high level.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes, but if you're really energized, you can push through a lot, especially if you've got that, I like to call it rapport with your boss, right? Then you're kind of willing to go through the trenches to the point of exhaustion. But if you don't feel that way, if you don't feel like you say, like empowered, right? Like the Lead with Impact, you're going to burn out and you're going to be like, yep, I'm not even coming back tomorrow. See you later.
Yep.
Viewers just in general, everybody wants to know, if burnout isn't just bad time management or too many meetings, like what from those things, like translation, what about that? With the lead, right? What is that translation into? Because a lot of managers, right? Anytime there's a problem, we got to have a meeting about the meeting for the meeting about the meeting next week. Then we got to have a post meeting. Then we got to have individual meetings. You're just like, good God, there's way too many meetings here.
Mm-hmm.
How does that, the time management and how does that impact it?
So there's this thing that's called hurried sickness. A lot of people have not heard about it. I heard about it because I started suffering symptoms when I was in overseas working in another country. I started to realize that when I sent an email to certain people and then I was looking at their response back to me, I saw what I sent them and I realized I was misspelling a lot of basic words. So I started to say, what's going on here? Something's not right. And coincidentally, I typed in the Google search, and I found out that I was suffering from hurried sickness. And what that means is that you will you're like in a daze. You're not realizing everything that you're typing out. In your mind, it looks like it's spelled correctly, but realistically, it's not. And it's not until you're able to separate yourself from that current event to look at it later on that you realize that you're making more errors than what you think. And it's called hurry sickness because you're trying to hurry up and knock out work back to back. You're trying to go from one meeting to the next. You want to knock it out. And more nowadays, they say there's no such thing as multitasking because what you're doing is you're switching from focusing on one thing to telling your brain to switch to focus on something totally different using different skills. But your brain needs time to make that switch. You can't go from first gear to fifth gear down to third gear, then go into reverse in neutral. But that's what you're doing to your brain. And as a result, I realized that you have to be able to block out time to think and pause and reflect. And coincidentally, Joe, I shut down my office for a week. Not say for a week, but for like 2 months straight, every Tuesday from 1 o'clock to 2 p.m., the office was closed. Nobody could come down and ask about a voucher. Nobody could come down and ask about budgets. Our office was closed. You couldn't do anything. That downtime for my employees for that whole hour for those 2 months, it actually increased productivity because now they had time to just pause to read their emails. They had time to research issues. They had time to learn their job. Imagine that.
Man, that's especially because I'm all about hands on. So having the chance to learn your job that's not easy. Especially because the expectation these days are, I'd already told you once, how come you didn't get it?
Yeah. So on that one, here's what I do. Anytime we hire a new employee in our division, I always tell the supervisor that they work for, do not give them any work for 2 weeks. Don't give them any work. The first week, they're trying to sit down and get familiar with our organizational policies, our website, our internet. So I tell that new employee, go on our internet, look up stuff, research different pieces of information. Here are we call it the ADS chapter, basically how to process certain SOPs, basic SOPs. Here's where you can find the SOPs at. Read through them to learn how to do your job. The second week, what I want you to do now is to sit down with people who are performing the same duty. So if you're an accountant, sit down with the accountants and different accountants, because as you know, Joe, everybody does their job differently. They achieve the same outcome, but how they do it is different. If you're a financial analyst, I'd have that person sit down with the financial analyst or the auditors to find out how they do their jobs. And as a result, the productivity went up dramatically 2 months later, right? Because now when there's an issue, that person knows who they can go to. Versus if you just throw them in a hot seat, they're just sinking. They're just trying to, tread water.
Right. No, to be honest with you, I'm going to take that principle and apply it to my company, to what we do. Like, because I've always thought something like that to a degree, but that makes it make a lot more sense now, especially when you say that hurry, because I cannot tell you how many times like, no, man, I'm telling you, I put that in my message. And I'm like, man, I don't even remember sending it like that. Like, I literally just look at it completely confused
Yes, yes, yes.
because you're trying to do so much in such a short period of time that's what happens.
That's what happens. And you don't even realize it's happening. That's
No,
the
you
that's the
don't.
scary part.
And then you're so mad to me. I was mad at myself afterwards. I'm like, man, like that's literally what goes through my head. I'm like just mad at myself. Like not mad at anybody, mad at myself. And I'm like, why would I do that?
Huh?
Wow, I never, and that's part of why I do this. I'm a very curious person and I love to find things out. Let's talk a little bit about, your story and your resilience. Cause, especially in America today, and I'm sure you've seen some of my episodes that talk about, we got to be like, we got to bounce back. We got to try to see a better tomorrow. There is a better tomorrow. Like Ronald Reagan said, our best days are ahead of us. Everybody's best days are ahead of them, whether you realize it or not. Your best days are ahead of you if you really want them to be. Obviously
Yes.
there's always an arc in life where you hit the peak, but that peak is just in that part of it, right? Then there's always another peak with something else, your other part of life. So, in your book, Accidental Success, you're talking about from obviously the unemployed to the diplomat. Share that pivotal moment where you changed that trajectory in your life.
Yes, Joe. I have this motto: vision plus action equals success. Vision plus action equals success. And I came across this framework a couple years after I saw how successful it was in my life. Picture this. You grew up in a low income household. You become the first person in your immediate family to graduate from high school, and that is considered success. But because of school programs that helped you go to college, you realize that, wait a minute, the goal is not the high school diploma. The goal should be the bachelor's degree, because with the education, you're able to open up more doors, which allows you to earn more income and to enjoy more opportunities. I graduated from high school. I took my entry level college courses that was paid for by a program called Upward Bound, now called Trio Works. I did well, but then I fell into the trap that most people fall into. I wanted to make money like all my other people who had graduated from high school. They were making money, working factory. So I said, let me go work at the factory as well. Next thing you know, I'm working 50 hours and then my grades start to suffer. So I make a decision. I said, now it's time to be all I can be. I joined the Army, got the GI Bill to help pay for my college education, and I learned the skill. Joe, 4 years later, I'm out of the Army. Now I have money to take care of me to help go to college. And I'm back on that same factory floor with some of the same people. Imagine that. Their life had never changed. But because I had the experience and skills of electronics and how to read an odometer, I was able to get a job within a few weeks making more money because of a skill that I had learned.
Wow.
That started to spark interest in realizing that vision plus action equals success. You see, unlike those people who wanted to sit where they were for the rest of their life and wait on promotions, I wanted more. So I left my environment to go have an opportunity. Then I graduated from college. Same thing happened. I walk across the floor, got the diploma in hand, and everybody's so excited. Michael, you did it. You did it. But guess what? I wanted more because at the time I was working at T-Mobile, thinking that I'm going to make all this money now that I have this degree. Well, as most people realize, your employer where you're at, they actually don't value you. They always value somebody from the outside. So I could never get a promotion. So I did something that most people wouldn't do. I applied for a low-paying internship at my alma mater that I just graduated from. The internship was only for like 10 weeks, which means that after 10 weeks, you got to start all over. But I needed experience in personal finance and banking, something I didn't have. I did my best. I worked hard. After the internship, they hired me. And that's why I say sometimes in life, you have to go back one step to go 2 steps forward.
I don't think anybody
Vision
ever really
plus
thinks about it.
action equals success. Once again, I had the vision that if I can get this skill, it can open more doors.
I mean, that kind of completely bucks the trend in America. Always chase that dollar, just chase it that minute, chase it that minute. How did like let's say you're on a smaller team, right? No
Yes.
money. How can you empower them to do more without spending more money? Because obviously you seem to have been in that situation.
Let's take a quick break.
The Middle Ground Mic isn't just another podcast. It's a movement for unity, for truth, for a future beyond the left and the right. But movements don't grow without people willing to stand up. Subscribe now on Buzzsprout. Fuel this mission directly on PayPal. Every subscription keeps the fire burning. The links are in the show notes. Be more than a listener. Be part of the Middle Ground.
Yes. And if I understand your question, how do you, as a leader, how can you empower a small team to do more, right? Here's
Yes.
what I do. I tell leaders that meet with your team members once every quarter and just talk to them. Don't talk about work. Here's what will happen, Joe. Hey, John, how are you doing today? I'm doing good. Before you worked here, where did you work at before? Oh, I used to work at X company. Oh, you were the director there? Well, I didn't know that. So what made you apply to work here? Oh, you wanted to do more. You wanted to have more opportunity, whatever the reason is. Oh, okay. So what's your goal for, next year? Okay. So now you got to know that person on a personal basis. Now you realize their interests, their motivations. So
Heck yeah.
now what you do, Joe, is that you meet with them again next quarter. How's it going? Hey, we have this training coming up. Have you thought about applying for the training? Or here's a project. Would you like to work on this project? So you just start to ease them in towards their goals. And unfortunately, the way I believed is that some point in times, some employees will leave, right? They will leave once you upskill them. But for the time that they're with you, you're going to get maximum productivity from them.
Right.
So, so that's one tip that you can do as a supervisor is don't talk about work in those meetings. Don't talk about work. It's off limits.
I'm real big about small talk with my employees, sometimes too much.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting, and I'm not going to lie, that's not something I would have thought about from like that approach. So that
Yes.
is definitely. Let me tell you, I'm learning a lot here. Like, really, I really am learning a lot. That's just, you know, uh, what were mistakes that you made, right? That assumption that you may have made that turned out to be something different, just in general.
Yes. So that's how I developed my Lead with Impact program is because of the mistakes I made in the past. What I thought was important was being accountable. I thought if you come into an organization, you improve the financial situation, everybody's going to like you and you're going to get promoted. No, organizations value team spirit, being praised. Hey, boss, I like you. Big boss in charge of everything. We love you. Everything is great. My life is good. Versus, hey, Michael improved the numbers. Boy, morale is increasing. Ism has gone down. He deserves a promotion. No, no, no. It doesn't work like that. It works based upon what those larger organizational goals are. And if you're meeting those metrics, then you're considered successful from an outside. So as an employee trying to get promoted, I had to adjust, be like, okay, wait a minute. How do I get promoted? Oh, I got to play. And what you got to play this game. You got to be yourself, but play this game.
Right. I mean, I okay. I would have not thought about it like that. I mean, that's a completely different way than coming up in business, like how they always like teach you. Like that's just. I mean,
I give you an
that's a lot
example.
more effective.
Here's how I learned to adapt, Joe. I was working at a IT company right out the gate. Sales, who can sell the most computers, selling computers. I was doing great, phenomenal. So, an open position came up for the next promotion. I applied. I didn't get it. I was like, wait a minute. I had like the top numbers on the team. How come I didn't get the promotion? And it was because they told me this. Well, we didn't know you were interested in the job. What? So I applied for a job and I didn't get it because I didn't tell you I was interested in the job. Like, what is this? Then you see who got the job and you realize, oh, Gary's girlfriend got the job and she's third on the team. Okay. Working. You need to
Yes.
network to find out what they value. You see,
Yeah.
that's how I interpret it. You have to network to find out what they value. They don't value the number. You see, they value the
Yeah.
number plus the relationship.
Right. No, that goes back to I always tell people, how do I always word it? Hey, it's just I gotta word things better. I tell people, I'm like, you have to stand out where there's problems.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when and you have to. I always tell people, like, or at least when I'm trying to develop someone, um I try to emphasize their strengths, minimize their weaknesses while trying to get them to improve on their weaknesses when they're trying to develop, right? Because everybody's gonna have weaknesses. You always want to improve on it, but you want to really put them in a position where they excel while getting them to shore up the low end. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, hey, you're terrible at talking to people, but man, you can really pump things out at a fast pace behind the scenes. Okay, well, at some point in my industry, you got to talk to people because that's kind of what my industry does, right? So, all right, how do we shore that up while increasing that? All right, what situation causes it? And then when that time comes around, hey, this guy, they start noticing, and that person will like, well, yeah, I want to move forward. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, they start noticing it, and I tell people, I'm like, you have to put yourself in that position. Like, you have to tell people, hey, I want this. How I moved up is the company I was working for, they had bought an existing franchise. I wasn't trained for the job. The lady had just kind of said, "Hey, here's the keys. Go for it. Let's see what happens." And 2 weeks
Okay.
later, I didn't know, but they were in the process of selling it. I had no idea. They kind of
Wow.
sandbagged me. So these guys bought it, right? And they're like, "We're not trying to be rude or mean, but you're not qualified. You don't know the job." They're like, "But if you stick it out, we're going to demote you. But if you stick it out, we'll get you to where you need to be." I'm not
Hmm.
gonna lie, man. For about a month, I started looking for a new job. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
I was salty. I was mad. I'm like, bleep these guys. But
Yep.
you know what? Over that month, I kind of started to the ice started to break, right? And I had a great boss. He's still my boss to this day. Ironically, as things have kind of, to a degree, we've moved up the chains in life to kind of together per se. But we've had some vehement disagreements where the voices have gotten very loud.
Mm.
But he's a person that I respect. I would go to war for this guy. I've had job opportunities where I can make more money, but I like I like what I know what I'm getting. If that makes any sense,
Yes, it does make sense. Comfort and quality of life.
yes, I have great. I have two sons. One of them is autistic, and he's 7. If I say, hey, my son's having a really bad day, I've got to go get him from school. Doesn't happen very often, but if I do, all right, yeah, no problem. Just make sure you're following up on the stores, this, that, the other thing, da da da. Let us know if you need anything. And this is where it stands out to where everywhere. Not a lot of people do it, but my bosses will be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they don't just do it during work hours. They'll message me
Mm.
7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and be like, "Hey, man, I know you had a long day. Everything okay?"
Wow.
Most bosses they may send you that while they're at work. But once they're home for the day, your problems kind of go out. And it's not saying that every boss has to be like that, but it
Yeah.
stands out to people, and that makes people go, "You care about my well-being." And that makes people stay, and that makes people come back and want to develop. And that's what I know is kind of like what you're doing. You say that in a lot more of a professional way than how we do it. We're kind of like that rough around the edges. I think it's kind of like that
Yes.
Michigan thing. It's Michigan's pretty blue collar, not a whole lot of proper English in the state.
Right. It's the diplomatic way, you got to realize that's something I learned diplomatic speak, and I try to teach new supervisors sometimes is what's not being said is more important than what's being said sometimes.
Yeah, I had an employee, a general manager under me yesterday go, and this was, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock at night. She messages me. She goes, "Oh, I work today, though. Somebody had to take my dog in. The dog had to get surgery." I'm like, "Why wouldn't?" I'm like, "I'm not psychic. Why wouldn't you have said something?" And
Mm,
she's like, "Well, I know." I'm like, "No, when it comes to," I said, "Dogs are family to me. I've got, well,
hmm.
only 2 now." But I'm like, "You should," I'm like, "I would have moved the earth." I'm like, "Your team could have stepped up." I'm like, I never, ever want to hear you doing that again." She just was like,
Yeah.
"What?" I'm like, "Never put this place in front of your family. I don't care what it is. There's nothing inside of these
Yes.
buildings that is more important than that dog." She doesn't have kids. So that dog is her kid. It means
Yeah,
that
especially
level to
yeah, for
her.
her.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I'm like, never ever. I'm like, because, you could get fired tomorrow and nobody's going to think twice. You could die tomorrow
Ah,
and we're going to have to replace you.
yep.
We do value you. We care about you, but don't put that family that's going to, like, even if something happened to you, that dog can't tell people. That dog's going to be thinking about you for the rest of its life.
Mm,
That dog will
powerful.
remember you. We won't. We may remember you in certain situations. You might, but that dog, you're everything to them. And I tell
And
people,
that's
and
where
if
your
a
emotional connections are.
yeah, and I'm like, and if a company doesn't value that part, if they don't stress that to you, they don't care about you. And they don't care about your well being. And if that, to me, anytime I've ever heard anybody say something like that, my wife and I'm like, I'll tell my wife, I'm like, look for a different job. She's like, what? I'm like, they'll sit there, smile to your face, and then fire you at the end of the day, and not think twice about it.
Yes. Yes.
I had an instance once where I seen someone they threw a big birthday party, threw this big old thing, and at the end of the day, they got let go. I'm like,
What?
I would have rather you just let me go and not did all that because now it just
Yeah.
I'm
That's in
more
your
insulted.
memory now.
Yeah, I'm more insulted. That creates a level of distrust for people that is hard to break.
Yeah.
It is very, very, and that right there, for that company, I was like, I could literally be homeless on the streets, and I'd rather go pick up pop bottles for money than to go do that because I would anything
Yes.
they said to me, I wouldn't trust them. I would just look and be like, "Yeah, no.
Because
Yeah,
you're
you're
just a
full of it."
number, you're just a number. They're like, you can see what the loyalty is. It's not to people, and people pick up on that. They feel that. They're like, look, I'm not valued. I'm just a number. So why should I put in extra effort? And then the team members who are still there, what do you think they're thinking? How do you think that impacts them?
Yes. Yeah, and that is so I don't wanna say, like, difficult, right? Because that's definitely not the way I'm trying to say it. Trying to think, what's the best way to say that? It's just to me, it's common sense. Okay, maybe that's the best way to put it. It's common sense, and to me, it's also just it's called being a good person. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Things have
Respecting
changed.
people.
But things,
Um,
profits
mm,
now, it's all about the money, right? But like if
you're
you take a
not
look
lying.
at Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. They're like, nope, we don't work on Sunday. You know what? It's funny, there's a singer too. We had somebody, we was asking somebody for some service or something. They're like, can you do it on Sunday at 3 o'clock? Hey, I don't work on Sunday. So it's the joke, right? Because it's like they stood on value. They stood on their principle that on Sunday we will lose money, but we'll make money
Yes.
the other days of the week. And people who come work for us, they don't have to worry about, do I get to go to church or not?
Yes. No. 1,000%. Like when I tell you 1,000%, you are 1,000 spot on. I wouldn't have thought about it like that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. You're, I don't know, man. I'm surprised you are not like a global speaker. You should try to get, because I don't think they charge for somebody to come on, but you should try to get on TEDx.
I've been thinking about it. So here's the thing. I've been waiting to identify which version of me do I showcase, if that makes sense, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times people only, if they see you one way, that's what they like. Okay. Have you heard of, like Steve Harvey, like Steve Harvey, right? Steve Harvey started off talking jokes. Then he became radio something, and then he's a host, right? So it's like, but the first, he has to be known for this one thing first before you would accept him as something different.
No, for
So
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Um, God, who was it? I think I've had total of three X. I've had Dr. Toby Glenn, Leah Brown, and don't ask me why I'm drawing a blank, and this person's probably going to kill me.
it'll come back. Yeah, but I'm thinking
I
the point is, I am thinking about getting a
yeah,
TEDx. So now that I have my leadership lead with impact, I've put it into a package just easy to explain, easy for leaders to use, real quick, and plug and play. Now that's what is on my list now to apply for a TEDx talk now.
man, that's phenomenal. I mean,
Appreciate
Michael,
that.
yeah, I mean, it's people need to hear more of this stuff. They need to hear more positivity ways to develop. I mean, it is so crucial now compared to where it was even 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It is just so different now. And they need positivity, but with accountability. And
Positivity with accountability. I like that.
yeah, it's important. And I just, people always they want to have the fluff without the grit. I don't know if you're a
Mm,
football fan, but in Detroit, we lost, Dan Campbell, man. Everybody's all about grit here. He's turned the Lions from the laughing stock of all sports leagues to Super Bowl contenders almost every year now. They're contending to win a title. And
yeah,
that's not
grit
easy.
it's not. It's something you kind of alluded to is feedback as a leader, right? Like being real. And what changed my leadership style was somebody told me, Michael, you're doing good work, but now that they have this 360 feedback that goes into your employee evaluation, into your promotions, you lucky you got promoted last year. Imagine hearing that. Yes, you do great work. You hold people accountable, but now that they got to get 360 feedback and to use that and to make a determination if you get promoted or not, you would never get promoted again. Ooh, that stung. It hit me. So guess what I did? I adopted my leadership style.
I never really thought about it like that. I mean, that's actually kind of perfect when you think about it. I mean, like the adaptation part, that to me, that's key of what you said, adaptation. Like
Hmm.
I'll say learning to adapt to things was definitely a struggle for me in my late 20s, early 30s, because, business changed. But I was very fortunate enough to work with some people that were politically definitely on the opposite side of the aisle from where I would ever be.
Hmm.
They were definitely like really far, if you want to call it far left people, but they taught me how to work with them. I didn't teach them; they taught me. And then after,
Yes.
they had moved on in life and everything, we still keep in contact. I said, I'm really struggling. I'm like, what did I do? Maybe tell me that was because I'm struggling. What did I do that really got you guys to want to work for me and stay with me? They were
Hmm.
like, well, you gave us a frame and said, I don't care what you do as much, but work within these boundaries and get the job done and enjoy your job and have a good day and empower me. And they were like,
Yes.
that's why we were here, because you trusted us and you believed in us and you empowered us and that's how it did. And I was like, and so then I started trying that with some of the more younger people. And they were like, and all of a sudden, these people started going, yeah, I want to work here. And I've got people in today's day and age, 18-year-olds will quit over one bad day of work.
Mm.
And now they're like, no, I'm here because I like it here.
That's a powerful transformation right there. Reminds me of when I was in South Africa when COVID hit. Google this. South Africa had one of the most rigorous lockdowns at all times during COVID. People were passing away. Yeah, Google it. You'll see the lockdown.
Yeah.
You couldn't go nowhere. Literally, you'll be amazed. Now, I'm living and working in South Africa, managing a large finance team responsible for the US government's money for 500 people and $1 million, like not million, but like 200, $300 million programs. And we're locked down. People, parents are passing away, relatives are dying. And of course, people want to know, where's my budget? Where's my voucher? Is it going to get paid or not? Meanwhile, my staff were people, the accountant who has to put the money into the account, the voucher examiner who has to pay for it, they are suffering. So here's what I did, Joe. I told my people, look, you can log on in the morning time early, do your work, take your kids wherever you need to do, run errands, come back in. You can work at lunchtime. You can come log back on at 6 p.m. Do what you need to take care of your mental health because the work is going to be there. When I gave them the green light, I also demonstrated to them. We would have a team meeting every week, and I'd be like, hey, right now, I'm literally walking while we're on the meeting right now, which showed them you don't have to be glued to your desk in your house on the computer. No, if you got something to do, take care of that. But we can also get the work done. Guess what? Productivity stayed high. It never dipped.
Wow. I never really thought, I mean, especially during COVID, because COVID, especially my industry, was just so hard. But, Michael, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on here today because it has been valuable. Everybody, I'm going to have some stuff in there. You guys definitely need to check out his books, Accidental Success, Build Generational Wealth, because especially these days, generational wealth is going away for a lot of
Hmm.
people. So it's key. Key. Michael, give a little bit of promo, give people your website and stuff. Let them know, where they can find more resources about you.
Yes, go to michaeldillardspeaks.com. You'll see valuable resources that will help you lead with impact. If you want to know how you can boost team morale, how to reduce turnover, then if you're a leader, you can just schedule a quick 30-minute consultation with me. I will give you some real examples that you can use that I've been able to use that help keep team morale high, that increase productivity in countries like the Dominican Republic, Zambia, Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I've been around the world. I've traveled. I work with diverse teams. I worked with people who didn't have the greatest skill sets at first, but I was able to empower them to get the best out of them. And also, as a leader, I took time to learn from them as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have to do a part two to this episode because we definitely gotta get some more of your experience out here. But everybody check out his stuff, especially that lead framework. I'm gonna be digging into that because I'm all about learning new things, man. Everybody, again, Michael, thank you for being here. And everybody, if you believe in what we're doing here, please go to the middlegroundmic.com/newsletter, sign up because there's always great details in it every week. Anything that I put on my show that I say, hey, this is a fact or what I've looked into, and those newsletters, there's always the links to all of where I've got all my resources from everybody. So, no left, no right forward. This is Joe from the Middle Ground Mic. Until next time, keep finding some common sense.